I'm here with Andrew Hamilton, pastor, blogger, surfer, fellow West Australian, and author of the great book, The Future is Bivocational. Andrew, you talk about pastors being too immersed in church world, and through that they lose connection with their communities, the communities they're trying to reach. What does that look like practically, and how does bivocational ministry solve this problem of disconnection?
I remember when we left Les Moody Baptist Church, we had been senior pastors for a couple of years, and as we were selling our house, some families came through to look at our house, and I realised they lived in the next street over. And I thought we lived in a community where there were no young families, and these families were getting together Friday nights, hanging out, having meals, doing things. And I thought, how did I not know about this in my own community? I was just so busy being a pastor that I didn't actually know what was going on around me. Since being bivocational, obviously it's well, not obviously because I work in the local community, so you don't always work in your local community, but when you're in the local community, you get to know so many people. And eventually you connect with some of them. They become friends, they become social contacts. There's a guy that we did youth ministry with way back when he was 14. He popped up in the water when I was surfing one day. I've worked for him. We've had parties in his home. Uh, you know, it's been a reconnection. It's been a wonderful experience being part of the community in a whole different way.
Wow. And I
Mm.
like when you talk about the bivocational area and pastors getting into it. You talk about the three L's. I'm trying to remember lucrative, local, and is there a third phrase there, or am I making this up?
Did I say that? That sounds really good. I don't remember saying that.
I wrote it
Lucrative,
down when I
local.
was prepping yesterday for the interview. It was lucrative, local, and maybe low key or something. I don't know. But there you go. Own that one now. But I
It
love
might
that
be on my
idea.
blog. Sometimes, you
Yeah.
write things and you forget the year I wrote
Yep.
them, but
Yep.
lucrative is great if you can make it happen because
Yeah.
you don't want to be working $20, $30 an hour if you can avoid it. In
Yeah.
fact, to go to Hugh Halter wrote a book called Bivo, and he talks about smart jobs and dumb jobs. And if you
Hmm.
imagine a four grid, the smartest job is one that pays you well and puts you in your local community.
Yeah.
Now, I happen to strike gold with that a couple of times. A dumb job is one that pays you poorly and takes you miles away. But obviously there are the other two variations as well. So the ideal job would be one where you go, I can work locally, I can meet people I'm wanting to minister to, and we can make connections. So lucrative, local. I don't know what the other one would be, but that's kind of similar vibe. Yeah,
Maybe low key, that flexibility angle of it, being able to adapt, where you can kind of drop the tools and go do a pastoral crisis sort of matter, or you can drop the pastoring and go do the tools for a while for extra during a week. That flexibility probably really
definitely.
helpful in bivocational.
Well, it certainly is if it's not an intense job. So you're not well, I've noticed that engineers or people who work at high levels generally can't say, hey, I'd like to go part time.
Right.
Their company typically wants them there on call. Whereas particularly when you run your own business, you can choose the hours you run. And I always say to people, remember, it's your business and you get to choose the way it runs.
Mm.
If you're flat out busy and you're feeling run over, then you get to back off on things if you want to, but that's your call.
Yeah, flexibility is great. I know in your writings you challenge the idea that churches need someone to do the work of the ministry rather than the church itself doing ministry. How does bivocational ministry and leadership activate the priesthood of all believers, if you like, of the body doing the work in ways that full-time pastoring can't?
Well, I think both can, but I feel like when you're bivocational and you've only got X amount of time, you know that you've got to train up people who can do the work of ministry. We were supposed to be doing this anyway, but perhaps when you're full time, you can suck up a little more yourself and cover the bases that other people don't cover. But there have been times when we've said, "Is anyone available to do X?" And if no one's available, we don't do it. And I felt very, very at ease going, we obviously can't do this at the moment. There aren't people available. And over the years, the church has got used to that too. Oh, we're not doing that anymore. Okay. And we don't flog things. A pastor doesn't need to step in and rescue things, which I think is great. So
Yep.
been teaching other pastors how not to rescue failing ministries and just let them fail, or let them go. Yeah, it's been good.
Feeling stuck as a church leader? Growing your church doesn't have to be overwhelming. The Hub gives you step by step roadmaps to grow a healthy church in just 20 minutes a day. Join the hundreds of church leaders who found their breakthrough by accessing my 4 decades of ministry experience, which delivers genuine results. Start your free 14-day trial today at growahealthychurch.com/hub. I think having less time almost in a benevolently pressures you to actually make those great choices. Whereas if you've got lots of time, you think, oh, we'll keep kind of, working around this thing, micromanaging it. But if you've got less time, you have to say, look, just can't be a priority anymore. We're going to have to dismount from that horse. It is dead and,
Absolutely.
and leave it, move on to something else.
Absolutely.
I think one of the things I liked what you said, what you wrote was Paul's tent making wasn't just about funding, about getting relationships that he never would have had made if he was sitting in the synagogue all the time. And I know you've had multiple businesses, your irrigation business, your diesel heaters and caravans business. How did those businesses help you connect with people that you probably would never have connected with as a full-time pastor?
Yeah, well, if you think the irrigation business was brilliant because it really was very local. The diesel heater one, people come from all over the city to me. But in irrigation, it was great. Could you think of the broad swathe of society? You might connect with a small section of them, but I would sometimes find myself in people's homes, background, lifestyle that, I probably wouldn't naturally hang out with. But we made connections and we had conversations, and it actually made you a much more rounded person because you were engaging with a whole bunch of people who maybe didn't use the same language you did, maybe didn't have the same kind of values you had, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
I love it. I think it would be a lot of fun, actually. So,
Yeah.
for church leaders, maybe board members, and also pastors who are watching, and they feel like, you know what, the finances are declining, but also we're feeling like we need to try something new and different, who are considering bivocational pastoring, bivocational ministry. What would you say about kind of getting that courage to say, all right, we're going to try something really different here? What would you say if you're talking to, say, a board member or a pastor who is considering going down the bivocational pathway?
It does take some courage. It does take some courage to step out of maybe a safe boat and say, I'm going to invest 2 days a week, 3 days a week in something else. What I say to people is maybe just do it for 1 day a week alongside what you're already doing. And if you're a church leader and you could afford to fund a pastor full time for a year while he develops a business 1 day a week, then maybe the next year he might be able to do it 2 days a week, and you pull back the funding a bit and, give it a test, if you like, experiment. If it all fails, well, it was a good experiment. But at least give it a try, and try and release the guy, but don't make it all on him. Sometimes if you're attempting something new, it may not come off. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's worth the experiment, I think.
I love that idea that if you want to move, create a bit of a safety net around a pastor and say, look, we'll keep paying you for the next 6, 9, 12 months while you develop the business, but take a day a week to develop that business. Give it a red hot go. And I think there are
Mm.
so many opportunities today, whether it's something working with your hands or whether it's a life coach thing or something that's online, all sorts of ways, I think, to create an income. And Andrew, we've talked in a previous interview. I'll put a link to the previous interview up here about how the irrigation business became a missional gold mine for you. Check out that interview and check out in the link below, the description below, the link to Andrew's book, The Future is Bivocational. Keep enjoying the surf up there in Yanship, Andrew, and great to chat
Sure
to you
will.
today.
Great to chat, John. Thank you.